One of the great evils of the colonial age was the brazen robbery and shameless auction of African cultural artifacts. Several African countries suffered this humiliating and oppressive fate. Recently, however, France, Scotland, Germany, and some other colonial powers have begun to return some of these artifacts that were historically stolen. Here to discuss these developing trends are Prince Agatse Erejawa, a lawyer in economics, and a prince of the Great Benin Kingdom and the immediate younger brother to His Royal Majesty, the Oba of Benin. It's a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Prince, good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. All right. Also on the show, we have the next person joining us is Professor Okwe Ookwe Jr. He's a professor of African history and the current dean of arts at the Federal University of Lafia and the national president of the Historical Society of Nigeria. He's supposed to be joining us from Makurdi. I'm told that he's having some network problem. He may join us with the show, and if he does, we'll have him. So, Prof, thank you. Also with me in the studio is Professor Abba Issa Tijani, the Director General, National Commission for Museums and Monuments. It is a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. So let's start with the crown, with the prince, first of all. The return of these artifacts to Nigeria and to Benin Kingdom, is this enough in terms of restitution? Should we expect more? And what does this mean for the great Benin Kingdom? The prince, sir.
Thank you very much once again for inviting me, for having me. You know, a lot of history goes into this question. What happened in 1897 actually was really uncalled for. It was just a case of brigandage at best. It was a case of oppression, devastation that ended up in looting. And today, I guess those that were responsible for this act are coming full circle to understand and appreciate and honor to the heinous crime that was committed in Benin 1897 and in other parts of Africa. So we're glad at least that restitution is being discussed. We're glad that artifacts that were looted, stolen, are being returned to their place of origin. But the question is that sufficient? So here we're talking about the question of reparation. What is reparation? Reparation is, where you have to make amends for the wrong that you have committed, okay, by compensation or by rendering assistance to those against whom you committed these wrongs. So it is not quite sufficient to say the artifacts are going to be returned. Those that perpetrated these heinous crimes and those that even participated by acquiring these acts according to the open market or otherwise, I think they owe a duty. They owe a duty, a moral and ethical duty to see that sort of compensation is rendered, because you destroyed it. You destroyed the civilization that was as old as it was. So how do you compensate for that? The Benin Empire was in trade relations with Europe long before the British came to Benin in 1897. There are records. Benin traded with the Portuguese, the Dutch were in Benin. These are all chronicled. And there was trade and harmony with these European economies. The British turned everything around because they wanted trade on their own terms. The massacre in Benin was premeditated. There was nothing like brazen or anything like it. It was all premeditated. So now is the time for those who perpetrated this act to talk about reparation. Reparation is not a new. It is defined in the dictionary, it is defined in the lexicon. But they have to own up to their wrongdoing and find a way for restitution.
Okay, sir. I'll come back to you with another question. Professor Jidani, I'm going to ask you the two big questions. Number one, why now? You understand international politics of this degree. So why is it happening now? And what does this say about the state of European-African relations?
Well, you know, this issue of repatriation, as you know, started long ago.
Yeah.
And Nigeria made so many attempts in getting our looted artifacts repatriated to Nigeria, but has not been successful. So this time around, we have a different approach, an approach that we want to mutually benefit, but also let them recognize that what they have done, the wrongs they have done, they should understand it. It doesn't stand, it doesn't hold water in international, you know, jurisprudence or international, you know, collaboration and mutual, you know, understanding. So this also culminated with great awareness with the social media and a lot of this conversation going on across the world. People realize that, you know, they have been going to museums and recalling all that transpired in 1897 in Nigeria and also at different times in other African countries. So the citizens actually in those countries where these objects were being displayed, the looted objects are being displayed, started agitating and saying that I think it's the time now for their governments to do the right thing, and the right thing is to now repatriate these artifacts. And it has now coincided with our own zeal, our own greater momentum now to get these things back. So we are pressing the right buttons. We are discussing and engaging with the right people. So that is how now this, you know, aspect of this repatriation is now getting momentum.
Interesting. I understand you yourself and the prince were in the UK together when to collect these artifacts. I'd just like you to just say hello to each other before we continue and let us know a bit of what went on the day you went there for these meetings.
Yes, yeah, Prince, yeah, we were together and together with two of his colleagues that accompanied him. And we were also, I was there with some members of my staff from the commission, and it was a great experience because it was part of the Benin Dialogue group which started many years ago on this issue of Benin artifacts, and it is a really great opportunity for us to be in person at these museums where these artifacts were being displayed, at the college also, Jesus College, where these artifacts was displayed, and taking a glimpse of this artifact that has been away for many decades, and which you know, the people of Benin have been denied of precious, you know, artifacts that is part of their history, part of their heritage, and spiritual obligations. Really, it was a great period for us to really interact with these people who are ready to give us back. And we thought that it is an opening, it is a lesson for all countries now to look at and see that physically people are returning our artifacts, and therefore they should follow suit.
Fantastic. So, Prince, I'm going to ask you also, what does this mean for the great Benin Kingdom, that these artifacts are being returned? What does this mean for your people?
Thank you. You know, like the DG just said, it is not just an admission of the wrongdoing that occurred at the time, but it is actually a resuscitation of the great history, okay, of the Benin Kingdom as known worldwide. The architectural advancements and the administrative advancements of the Benin Kingdom, which was actually copied by some European countries. So now we see a full circle turnaround, and we are happy because our civilization was ahead of the civilization of many European countries.
Yeah.
They actually borrowed leaf from the Benin Kingdom. So now we're happy that that recognition is now being restored. Benin was never inferior, and we have no reason to feel like that. So, in a sense, it is a vindication for us, and we're really happy at what is happening. And just like the DG said too, we're happy that many countries are realizing that it is only proper that they return these things that were stolen from us. And again, on the question of preparation, do you just return these things? Is that sufficient?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll leave that to the conscience of those who are returning these artifacts, who stole these artifacts. But I believe by international standards, it is not sufficient to just return these things. There has to be a way to recompense those from whom these artifacts were stolen, whose civilization was destroyed, whose land was destroyed. You know, this happened in many parts of Africa. So we expect better and more robust response from the oppressors at the time.
All right, thank you. So, Professor Jani, I'm going to ask, what does this now mean for the museums here in Nigeria, and what does this mean for our people as Africans, that these things are being returned? Once they called us savages, but we found out that the people who called us savages and uncivilized people stole our own artifacts as precious things. So what does this mean, first of all, for the museum and monuments, and what should this mean for us as Nigerians, as Africans?
Well, the return of the looted artifacts, it's really a great opportunity for us now to reposition ourselves as Nigerians, but also as Africans, that our cultural heritage has value worldwide. And we have a lot of our youth now that do not pay much attention to our cultural heritage, do not visit museums, and so on. So we want to now bring them closer to museums. We want to give them the opportunity to associate and interact with these artifacts that are returned, priceless, artifacts that are being respected worldwide, but let them understand that it is our culture, it is our identity, it is our past, it's part of our history. Therefore, we are the one that will respect what is associated with us more than anybody else. So let us now, as Nigerians, as Benin people, as Africans, now take pride in this, especially these artifacts that are being returned. Let us now start patronizing museums and understand more about our past and about our history. That is really the challenge for us now, and that is why we want to collaborate with our partners in the international community to now digitize our objects so that we'll be able to bring these artifacts and the history behind them closer to our young ones, because most of them are so much tied down to their social media and so on. So we want to make it available online, virtually. So this is a great opportunity for us now to start, presenting this on a kind of digital platforms so that our youth can also take part as well.
Okay, I'm going to ask two questions very quickly. We're out of time, so we're running out of time, so I'll need you to be a bit straight to the answers. You talked about the digital age, our digital young people, and our young people feel like the future is technology. Why should we care about the past? Now, you're a museum person, you understand why these things are important, and a lot of young people feel the past, is old. It doesn't mean the future is digital, so we should just think about technology and forget about culture and history. Those don't make any sense. That's one I would like to ask you, if you can answer that question before I go to the crown prince and we find them.
And before I answer that, there is one part of your question previously, which you talked about how the white people see us as backward, as savages, and so on. I think this is not right. What happened was this was a colonial mentality. At the time when people they came to Africa, what they had in their mind was the expansion of the empire. That was what it was in their mind, and therefore anything that they see in Africa is like something that is backward and so on. So now
to
today,
justify that for their own conscience.
Exactly. But now people understand, contemporary historians and people of conscience now know that we have advanced civilization. They have seen how, the Benin bronzes, the Ife terracottas and Ife bronzes, the Igbo Oku, the Nok culture, and many that we have in Nigeria are advanced, artistically, technologically, and they now realize it. That is why, when they came in, they saw that, we are so much advanced in this, and decided to now loot and take it back and then use it as part of their colonial expansion, booties. That was what happened, at that time. But also, in terms of, about our culture and about our history, is very important, because any future is dependent on the past. Whatever you do in the future, you learn it from the past. So our technology, as you can see, has advanced, even at that period. So therefore, we are now repositioned, again, to now tell the world that we are going to advance more and more, and therefore we are going to make it available on the social media, on all forms of the online platforms, so that we'll be able to give access to people to know about our history, and youth to know that this is where they are coming because from. If you go to outside country now today, you have dual nationalization and so on. All of that. By the time they come back, they will say, which what nationality are you? Which origin? African, Black African and so on. So you see, that's why we still need our past.
So the Prince, I'm going to ask, move to the Prince right now, who's also in Benin. You've heard him talk about this. Now there's an issue I would like to talk about. It's between both of you. There's the issue of who does these artifacts belong to? Do they belong to the Benin Kingdom? Do they belong to the federal government? Should they be in the museums? Should they be in Benin? What's the what's the state of that right now?
The National Commission for Museums is an agency of the federal government.
Yeah.
And the Oba of Benin had actually requested the president and commander-in-chief to actually go ahead and negotiate with governments on the return of these artifacts.
Okay.
We don't have any issue with government or the National Commission for Museums. I believe it is safe to say we are actually on the same page and working together for the repatriation of these artworks. At the end of the day, it is proposed that a Benin Royal Museum will be built in front of the palace, and most of these artifacts, when returned, will be housed in this museum. This is the understanding we have with NCN and the federal government, and that is why even the bronzes that were returned by Cambridge and Aberdeen universities recently, the president gave express directive that would be delivered directly to Her Majesty, the Benin.
Fantastic.
And the date has been fixed for that event to take place. But that is not to say that, we actually appreciate the role that the NCMM and the DG, who actually is really very dynamic in this regard.
I can say
we
that.
know what
I can say that.
We only just came back from the pet. He recovered some bronzes, and we're even going into further discussion with him because in Benin we are getting communication directly from institutions outside Europe, United States, all over. Letters are being written directly to the upper Benin. So please come and collect certain artworks
that is fantastic.
And we have intentions to discuss this with the
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Together and receiving these artworks.
That's fantastic.
There's no dichotomy at all.
Thank you. Professor Danny, we've heard a lot of your high praise there from the Prince, and congratulations. It's a fantastic thing that such a thing is happening in your era, in your administration. I'm sure you must feel very proud of this accomplishment. The last words for Nigerians and for other colonial people, other people who have stolen Nigerian, African artifacts, and then we can go.
Well, I want us first to understand as Nigerians that we have a very rich culture, respected culture worldwide, and that is why our artifacts, our artworks are very popular and well respected and highly valued. And therefore, we need to understand and appreciate it and also respect our own culture and our own, artifacts. And by doing this, we will be concentrating on what is right for us so that we forget about all these, mishaps and so on that is going on. Let us respect our culture of peace and unity. And of course, if you look at the international community, they now know that Nigeria respects their culture and respect their identity and their past. And that is why they know we are not relenting. We continue to ask for the return of our artifacts, and that is why it is happening now. And many countries have been reaching out to us even before we write to them formally, and we'll continue to reach out to those that we have not reached out and discuss issues of repatriation, and we look at those countries that are yet to join the bandwagon to start reaching out to us or respond to our letters that we have written formally. And that is a way forward for all countries that are holding our looted artifacts.
Thank you very much, Professor Tijani. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. We look forward to seeing you again and extend this conversation. The Prince would like to thank you very much also for joining us all the way from Benin via Zoom, and we hope we will extend this conversation and this dialogue some more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And correction, I refer to the Crown Prince. I'm the younger brother to be about.
Yes, I regard that. There's a big difference. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.